Good afternoon, everybody. I'll give it another minute or so, let people come in. And I just want to thank you. I'm going to make sure you're at the right meeting. This is a meeting about proposed, and I'm going to emphasize proposed a number of times, 5-year parking permit that we are going to ask the Coastal Commission for. We operate under a series of 5-year permits that do things like tell us what rates we can charge, remind us that we have to provide some type of low-cost access to the beaches. And it also involves if we're going to add paid parking or parking limits to new locations, especially South Laguna. So I hope that's why everyone's here. This is a very informal meeting. You don't see any council members. We're the staff. I'm going to introduce the staff. I'm Dave Kiff. I'm the city manager. Alexis Braun is our leader of community services and transit. Matt Schneider is our community development director. That's Frank is in our public works department. Tom is in our public works department as well. Gavin's our assistant city manager. Gerald's here from communications. So that's us. We're going to go through a brief presentation with you, and then it's free for all. Ask any questions, offer any comments. And again, the intention is to take what's here at this meeting and bring that back to the city council meeting, the next one in September 23rd. So a little less than a month away. So with that, I think Alexis is going to lead the presentation.
Okay, once again, thank you all for attending this meeting tonight, and we are here to answer any questions after we go through the brief presentation. But as Dave previously mentioned, the city operates under a 5-year coastal development permit for parking rates. And these are the rates that were approved back in 2021 for the downtown meters, as well as the all-day beach parking lots, and then the average kind of the downtown rate. So the coastal development permit 5 years ago was approved for a 10% annual increase at the parking meters in the downtown areas, as well as an increase in the all-day beach parking lots downtown. And then the actual meters during the off-season were just raised by $1 for the duration of the 5 years. So the plan for the 2026 to 2030 parking plan would be to continue with the annual 10% summer rate increase for the 5 years, as well as do the $1 increase over the 5-year span during the off season. So the proposed with the 10% increase for the downtown meters, these are the rates that would be listed for the next 5 years through the city's parking management plan over the last 10 years. The city has provided various parking options, as we mentioned, downtown, as well as peripheral parking lots, and offered free transportation services in the summer from Irvine, and then also in South Laguna with the trolley. So some of our current existing free parking options include the Actify parking lot is free during the off season, and a trolley will pick you up there and take you downtown. And then it is $5 during the week and $10 on the weekend during the summer months. Mission Hospital has free year-round parking. In the summer months, it's available after 5 p.m. on the weekdays, all day, Saturday and Sunday. And then in the off season, the city offers free parking there Saturdays and Sundays as well, with the trolley to transport guests to downtown or to the beaches. And as previously mentioned, the Summer Breeze is a lot in Irvine that's offered during the summer season, as well as during the 1 month in the winter for when the festivals are open, that the city provides a trolley that brings people downtown. And then year-round Sea Cove lot on Coast Highway has free parking with a 3-hour parking limit. So the trolley has transported over 1 million annual riders, uses alternative fuel, and connects different parking and over 30 beaches. And the city in the past several years also has operated a Laguna Local, which is an on-demand microtransit program that has 150 spaces, which are in walking distance to the majority of residences in the community. So the other item that city staff want to bring up for input from the residents tonight is the South Laguna parking discussion. So currently, the parking is free with the exception of Aliso Beach, but there are no costs to park on Coast Highway. So this is a proposal for looking at having the city get an encroachment permit with Caltrans to have paid parking in South Laguna. Based on some scope, there could be about a little over 593 additional designated paid parking spaces, 361 on the inland side, as well as potentially 232 coastal spaces as well, that could be paid parking from Moss Street down to Vista del Sol. And so that will be something that we wanted to talk with the residents this evening. And the city is also talking with Laguna Terrace about offering potential 47 additional spaces in South Laguna there. All the city's shoppers permits would be, even if these spaces do become designated paid parking, the shoppers permits would be valid as well at these spaces as long as it was within the designated hours of the space. So this was just a little map.
What is paid parking? That we're talking about meters, talking about here on the highway.
On Coast Highway. This gentleman asked, what did that entail? And it would be designated, if Caltrans approves the encroachment permit, it would be designated tiered parking spaces, because first it'd have to become designated parking spaces, and then it would be on Coast Highway from Moss Street all the way down south, to with pay stations. Oh, just sorry, the inland side of Coast Highway and then the coastal side. Yeah, sorry about that. Mm-hmm. Only designated areas that have sidewalks that could potentially be made parking. It wouldn't be, if it's red right now, it would not be moved. That would not become paid parking.
From West Street down to Lisa Creek, turn off. It's not red for a majority of it, and they park on that. But will that be incorporated into this 232 spaces? But there's no sidewalk. No sidewalk.
Yeah, just the areas with sidewalks. Well, what?
Spots on the living side, where there's no sidewalk. People park it all the time.
So currently Caltrans is finishing the South ADA project that is constructing sidewalks as far down as I think 5th Street on the coast side of Coast Highway. The city has a couple projects programmed for the future that might also add sidewalk connectivity as far south as 10th. And obviously we'll install parking stalls where it makes sense and where it's safe. And after a conversation with Caltrans.
Well, I know we opened up to questions already, but we'll let Alexis finish. And then I do appreciate the questions. I do think, and staff, you guys can correct me, I think we're still having an internal discussion about whether or not, the issue isn't so much about can you park by a sidewalk, is where can you put a legal place for someone to pay? And we've got to have a discussion with the city attorney about whether or not that could be entirely pay by cell, so you just pay by your phone. But there are some cases where people don't have phones, and the state law does suggest that you should have access to a coin or dollar-based pay station somewhat nearby. So we need to isolate more what somewhat nearby means. Can we do it at the Aliso Beach parking lot? Can we do it at the entry to the city? that you pay there and you just get a ticket and you kind of take your chances as to where you can park. So all those things are things that we're trying to weigh into. So let me let Alexis finish and then we'll do the free for all for questions, I promise. Actually, I think Frank, are you doing this next one? Okay. We're going to talk about Lisa Beach parking lot next, because if a lot of folks in this room know, we brought something to council which would involve a potential restriping, and we had a lot of good feedback on that. So we're here to talk more about that.
Right, so obviously Aliso Beach parking lot needs to be rehabilitated. And we took a look at doing several conceptual plans to present to city council. Those were presented back in April. At that time, there was 3 options. One with very minimal impact, only paving, one with a moderate impact, and a third option that would add additional parking stalls and would have some impact possibly to trees and the alignments of the median islands and landscaping. The council at that time did select option 3, which it was the most impactful, but I believe because it also added parking stalls, it added increase in revenue. And we did hear back from the community. We held a meeting later, a few months later, where we took notes on what the concerns were, and we came back with an alternative 4, or option 4. So option 4 does reduce the impacts that option 3 had. First, on the inland lot, it no longer impacts any trees. It maintains all the existing trees, but it still adds 31 parking spaces. On the coastal lot, the beachside lot, we added 33 new spaces. Some of those are compact and they're beachside right up front. We made sure to maintain at the entry a clear view to the ocean, just to make sure that was visible. And we also decided that that parking would be seasonal use, summertime likely, Memorial through Labor Day. And off-season, it would be used for some type of amenity, picnic tables, possibly some type of seating, and it would be designated by signs as well as possibly like planters or something to separate it and keep it away from anybody driving through the parking lot. And so I think that that's a total of 64 parking stalls that get added overall. And I believe it still brings an increase of revenue of about 65,000. I put in the, I calculated. We did go back and check our calculations for the revenue. And to the extent that we can tell, it's an accurate prediction estimate of potential revenue. And so we just wanted to bring this alternative back to show that, we listened and we tried to adjust. That is a depiction of what it would look like. It's a CAD drawn description. You can also see we added a path from the back of the lot to the front of the lot. I don't believe that was there in option 3. The trees here, while they are being relocated, they aren't being removed. And so we tried to reduce the impacts, yet still add additional capacity and additional revenue.
So for the next steps for the meeting is we will gather feedback from the residents and consider the input for the staff report that's going to City Council for September 23rd, seeking general direction for the next 5-year CDP. And then Planning Commission will issue the coastal development permit for the next 5-year parking rates. And the notice of final action will be sent to the Coastal Commission, subject to appeal. And then the city, if the direction is For South Laguna parking, the city will get a Caltrans permit, and then hopefully by spring of 2026, everything will be updated for the parking rates.
Okay, so now it's time for questions and comments. Please raise your hand. We'll go around the room one at a time. Gavin has a mic so that the folks at home can hear. I'm going to start with this gentleman here.
My name is David. I'm a resident of South Laguna, and I think I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the staff in the city. I think it's good to add more parking spaces, but the fundamental problem in South Laguna is not the creation of more paid parking, which is not necessarily a negative. The problem is the traffic in the neighborhoods. And this approach, this program here, while has many merits and benefits, doesn't really address that. It's probably not enough to relieve pressure from the neighborhoods. In fact, if you increase prices, if you have more paid parking, people will park where it's free. So you could make the argument it increases pressure on the neighborhood parking. So what I'm talking about there is both people actually parking, taking up spaces, but the traffic of them going around looking for parking. It is incredible how many people are going around and around, unsuccessfully finding parking, waiting for parking, putting that pressure on our residential neighborhoods. So I'm not familiar with the details of the Coastal Commission rules in this area, and I know that they are difficult. But at least in a medium time frame, what would I believe be particularly important to residents of South Laguna is some kind of a program that initially does not limit the number of spaces for public parking in residential neighborhoods, but requires payment. There are a variety of cities on the West Coast, including Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, San Mateo, that require advance purchase of permits for parking in residential neighborhoods. You go online, you buy a half-day permit, you buy a full-day permit. It can be zoned South Laguna, hippie neighborhood, Main Beach, North, however you wanted to do that, to require payment without the reduction of the number of parking spaces available to the public, so that access is maintained, but the city is obtaining revenue to deal with the issues caused by day visitors and to provide for enforcement, but at the same time, putting the neighborhoods at least not at a disadvantage to other parking, because it's free in the neighborhoods. It's not free in a large part of Coast Highway, the Aliso Lot, Coastal Inland, and these other things. So I don't know if it could, it seems like you have a 5-year permit opportunity to begin a discussion. It doesn't seem like it reduces access. There are many, many models on the West Coast in Europe for this kind of thing, where you obtain a permit prior to coming to the area so that you know that the number of cars can be supported. I've seen a lot of evidence that suggests issuing permits at 85% of occupancy reduces the seeking traffic for parking. You can take up an inventory, how many parking spots are available in South Laguna. 85% have a system to introduce those kinds of permit. Costa Mesa is doing that now because of Huntington Beach and Newport Beach overflow. Newport Beach has, around the Balboa Pier, has a program like this. There are many, many models. We would not be the first. Somehow, the coastal areas have been able to do this with the Coastal Commission. So I'm really here just to speak initially to, at least in the short term, find some way to reduce the traffic in the neighborhood seeking parking. I think, as a resident of Laguna Beach, that in the long term, as a longer program for the city, it is not logical or rational that day beach traffic should be in the residential neighborhoods. I understand that that is not currently supported by the Coastal Commission, but I believe it should be adopted as a position of Laguna Beach that over time, we want to discuss that with the Coastal Commission and get to a point where that is not done. We have all these wonderful access programs for free parking, for trolley, from Irvine, all these things that provide access. They're all good. We should find more. But I disagree with the notion that you have a right to park in the neighborhoods for daily beach traffic. So I see
Thank
this as a multiple step program, but something has to be done to reduce the traffic pressure in those neighborhoods.
Okay.
Thank you.
Points well taken. I appreciate those. Thank you. Keep going there, Ian. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Justin. I live in South Laguna. I agree with everything that you said. That was fantastic. The traffic is in the neighborhoods is so bad. Emergency vehicles can't get past. It's really dangerous. And the thing is that there's many streets. There's signs that said there's no parking on this side of the street. However, they're blocked by trees and branches that are not pruned by, the city or whoever's property that they're on, and people park on both sides of the streets. I think if you had the parking services go out there and ticket more, that could bring in a lot more revenue, and that would disincentivize people to illegally park and then go towards the paid parking. So there's a lot of parking behaviors that I think could be modified going forward into this. And then my second point is in terms of the revenue projections from parking, does that include parking revenues from issuing tickets from 5 to 10% of the people that don't pay at all and just park there?
I don't know if we factored that in, but yeah.
'Cause tickets are not cheap.
Yeah, no, I know.
I've paid
They're
them myself.
Getting even worse. Yeah, thank you. Those are good comments.
Thank you.
How about in the back there?
Hi there. Nick Aronoff. I used to live in South Laguna, currently live in Central Laguna. Both the gentlemen, you guys made very good points. I think it's concerning that, you guys have made this big focus on paid parking, but then didn't take into account of what happens in the neighborhoods, because that's like doing one thing and then, oh shit, we forgot to do something else. And that creates a worse problem. And I previously have also lived in Washington, D.C., and we have a neighborhood parking permit as well. Since D.C. is not part of a state, it's easy to pay through the city when you get your car registration. You get a parking permit for a certain zone. I lived in zone 2 that included a certain area that I could park and live in. All the parking other than that was 2-hour parking. So I think something like that has worked. It's functional. It generates revenue. I think I pay $70 for the year. So obviously prices differentiate depending on the city and the amount of parking spaces. Another thing is with the paid parking, you guys mentioned, over 500 something spaces maybe you guys haven't and just didn't have it prepared, but there's no context of a map. What's a sidewalk? What's not a sidewalk?
We do have that. We didn't show it.
Where might sidewalks need to be built? For example, the beach I go to is Victoria Beach. You have one side of the highway has a sidewalk, so that would constitute this paid parking. But the other side, where Diz's is, has a small sidewalk and then it ends. So is that all of a sudden free parking? So there's a lot of gray area where it can be very confusing. And I think it needs to be very clear because obviously, as we know, with issues with Caltrans and the state running the highway, that it's not consistent all the way through. And I think there needs to be a very clear delineated map of this is what's going to be paid. This would not change. This would change. This would not change. So all residents throughout the entire area of South Laguna can fully understand how it's going to affect their neighborhood. And, we don't want to get to a point where we have to install turnstiles and, paid parking or to enter when it comes to people going into the neighborhoods. And we also don't want signs like in Los Angeles that take 20 minutes to understand, or you need some sort of translator to figure out, am I parking on a day or am I going to get a ticket or not? Because you don't want to stress people out with, all right, Sunday street sweeping, okay, 2 hours here, 1 end there, farmer's market day, all that stuff. So to simplify, there could be opportunities for residents to have, passes like 3 Arch Bay and Emerald Bay can give out a certain amount of passes. They can print them. You can pay a small fee, give it to their friends and family when they're coming to visit. And then those expire, whether they're day or week passes. And then obviously for tourists, they have to be, it comes down to education, just like with the trash issues at the beach. Tourists need to be educated on how to act when they come visit different communities. So there might be necessary education through tourism, social media accounts or online or people in person that are there to help educate people on how to act. I mean, it's unfortunate that it leads to this, but that's the way that we can change these behaviors. Because like the second gentleman said, a lot of people think that I know the secret spot of how to get around. And no, we got to educate people and we have to drive them to different areas. So it's a whole encompassing project. It's not going to be one solution that's going to solve everything. We have to take this approach from multiple angles to make sure it takes into account for all the different factors.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Got Aaron there next. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, thanks for putting this meeting together. It's much appreciated. I really liked the first gentleman's idea of kind of having like an online parking pass reservation system. I think that would address the traffic problem that we have on the residential streets. My idea, and I know I've emailed with you directly about this, but for the purposes of discussion, I'll kind of put it out here. So at least in my neighborhood, I'm in the neighborhood above the Montage, and our neighborhood is completely overparked, especially on weekends, and weekends during the summer specifically. So my idea, if we're going to Coastal Commission, we should be asking them for the ability to address the specific issue that we have, which is weekends and holidays up to 5 blocks from the beach. And so if we ask them for that authority to charge on the weekends, make it, and say an 8-hour period, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., you have to pay during that time period. My idea was to institute a QR payment system. So we'd have signs that could be posted, hopefully on as many existing poles as possible, some new poles as well. So it'd be a low visual impact. My idea was also to phase, there's going to be problems with this, as we discussed via email, contractors, guests, et cetera. And we don't know how this is going to play out, but my idea was to come at it from a standpoint of working with the residents to adopt a system similar to the undergrounding, where you survey a given neighborhood and get majority support in order to implement the system in that neighborhood and work with the residents, not thrust this upon them. I would suggest that my neighborhood, Montage neighborhood, or 1,000 Steps or 1,000 Steps are the perfect neighborhoods to try this out because they're completely overrun. In terms of residents being able to park, shoppers passes would work. Contractors could be issued a sticker along with their business licenses. Additional passes could be purchased by businesses for their employees, particularly in the downtown. A lot of people walk up Legion in order to get free parking and so forth, or they could utilize Act 5 or these other lots that are available for free. And I also have the idea, I don't know if Coastal would sign off on it, but to have a non-paid resident pass that would allow you in residential zones, more than 1 block from PCH, so that people don't have to pay to get a shopper's pass in order to park in front of their house. I know that there would be complications and problems. We're on a 5-year time schedule here. We need to begin solving them. We need to get this started in 2026, not in 2031. I think that, the way I see it is to crawl, not jump. So we can do it, it doesn't have to be 5 blocks in the beginning. It could be the 2nd block, the 3rd block, whatever seems appropriate, whatever has overwhelming support. See how it goes. Don't bite off more than we can chew. Take it back if we need to. But we need the authority from Coastal to do that, and we only have this time period in order to ask for it. So I suggest that we do that. But I also like his ideas too.
Oh, good comments again all around.
On a LISO real quick. We've also had some discussion about that. What it looks like this proposal is, and I haven't had a chance to really go through it, obviously, but it looks like this proposal is more or less what council had asked for back in April, which is compact parking along the front. They got rid of removing a couple of trees somehow. They added parking here. They shifted things around a little bit, and so it's a little less intense than it was before. But Aliso is a beach park, and it's not a parking lot. And this is our main beach in South Laguna. And the idea that we're going to slam as many spaces in there. I mean, we've got like 6 acres of parking, and we've got a beach that's 20 feet wide. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. So if we're gonna be redesigning that area, I think that it should be it should be a full park redesign, and there should be conceptuals and elevations, and this should be a complete rethinking of the area, and not just a calculation on how we can squeeze more parking in there. And I also do not agree, or let's say I'm skeptical of the financial calculation that they made, because I was paying attention all summer long, and even at 2 o'clock on weekdays all summer long, there's parking available in the front lot if it wasn't a hot day. And so we need to look at those numbers really closely. The last thing that we want to do is spend $2 million and start getting $60,000 or more a year and ruin the beach on the busiest days. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Good comments, Aaron. Thank you. Well, I think Gavin, you want to get Greg while you're there? Okay, go ahead then.
Hi, my name is Mike Rosenberg. I live in South Laguna, right near Justin, who spoke earlier. First of all, I'm delighted that this meeting is occurring. I've been emailing Sue Kempf and City Council and Alex Renagi for 10 years because I'm outraged that whenever I go to Newport Beach or Huntington Beach, I have to pay for parking. And when they all come to South Laguna, no one has to pay for parking. So thank you for doing this. I'm very happy about it. I think there's a massive revenue opportunity for the parking. I'm not talking about Aliso, but just I see thousands and thousands of cars every Saturday and Sunday and holiday Monday. And I know these people would pay 10, 15 bucks, no problem. And all that money should be collected by us because we incur the costs of all their garbage and rescue and everything else they do. And I think it just makes sense. I am not concerned at all about the traffic coming into the neighborhoods because of paid parking on PCH, because it's already happening. It's there. It's a nightmare, like everyone said. So it's a canard to say that putting paid parking on Coast Highway is going to push traffic into the neighborhoods because it's already there. And the last point I'd like to say is about parking, the violations on the parking, police, or whatever you want to call them, which people have already mentioned, but it's a joke. Like, it's a joke. I've called so many times because cars are on the wrong side. They're blocking driveways. They're right up against stop signs. I call the police. I mean, obviously not the emergency line. And they don't even come and ticket them. So it's a joke. And there's so much money to be made just there, even if we do nothing, just tickets to people. I think everyone there knows that you can park in South Laguna in front of someone's driveway or in front of a hydrant or on the wrong side, and no one's going to do anything. So I just don't understand that. So that's all I have to say, but I'm very appreciative this is happening. So
I want to take a quick sidebar with you about parking enforcement because it sticks in my craw too. And some folks know I was a city manager in Newport for 9 years, and Newport is a charter city. Laguna Beach is a general law city, meaning we have to follow the general laws of California, but charter cities can carve out their own rules. One of the things that the general laws of California says is that a city employee has to be the person placing the ticket underneath the windshield. So that means I have to hire people to do it and or divert our parking control, which is about a lot what they do. They do a lot of tickets, but they also follow up on an accident or the neighbor that says this car has been in front of my place for 72 hours. So there's a lot of things they do besides tickets. In Newport, they have a company that all they do is tickets, and it bugs the heck out of people, but it delivers what needs to be delivered. And I'd like to move Laguna to that place, but we'd have to become a charter city, which we can do. The voters have to do that. You can, but it's seasonal work. And we actually upped it this year. I don't know if folks know this. We've issued about 16,000 tickets already this year. But there's a lot we miss. All over. We can show you. It's more than last year. I've only been here 2 years. I just asked that we start collecting records. Yeah. No, I know. I know. So please know we're having those conversations. I don't discount at all what you said. I agree with it. Greg, want to go ahead?
Deputize us.
Thank you, Dave, and city staff for having this meeting. Greg Viviani, 41-year resident, born and bred in South Laguna. Family's been in town since the 40s. So Aliso Beach is my main focus on my speech today. We all know that lot, or that beach in particularly during peak season, gets completely overrun. with a lot of day trippers. They bring a lot of easy ups, trash, you know, alcohol, drugs, whatever you name it. Adding any extra spaces to that parking area is not going to be good for our marine protected area, for the beach, for the ocean, for the wildlife that we have to protect. If we add more spaces, the amount of revenue that is raised from those spaces is not going to offset the negative impact of those visitors. So you're talking, 30, 40, 50 more families on a beach that is shrinking. The sand is going away. When I was a kid, the beach used to go out another 100 yards. We had a pier there. The pier's gone. It acted as a jetty somewhat to protect some of the sand. But as we all are aware, during king tides, full moon, the sand comes up into the parking lot on the front row almost every full moon now, and it's getting worse and worse. And so if you add more families during summertime, when we get the south swells, when the south swells carve the beach out on that side and it pushes the sand to the north, you're going to add more trash going directly into the ocean. And I promise you, I will dump more trash at city council meetings if that happens. I will do it every meeting if you guys add more spaces, any spaces to that beach, that parking lot, because I know for a fact it is going to add more trash to that beach, and that pisses me off. And as for parking on PCH, I think that we should, charge the people that park, even if it's not on a sidewalk spot, because all of those cars, all of those people are lugging their ice chest, their trash, their beers down to the beach, leaving it on the sand. We foot the bill. We pick it up. We do, because we live here. We love it. We love the beach. But I have to say, the cost to protect that and prevent that is going to outweigh exponentially the amount of spaces that are added to the Aliso Beach lot. So please do not add any spaces. Keep it how it is. Maybe do some cosmetic upgrades, pave it, slurry it, stripe it. And the wide spaces are there for a reason, because kids and families have their luggage, their beach stuff, their coolers, and they open their doors all the way. And so if you pack narrow the spaces in, you're going to have door dings, you're going to have more fights, you're going to have more problems, and you're going to have more videos all over social media, people screaming at each other in the Aliso Beach parking lot. So I beg you, do not add another space to that lot ever. And because that lot's going away, it's going to be less and less as years go on. And you spend more money on that lot, in 5, 10, 15 years, the sand's going to be even further back. And all of a sudden, there's going to be no area for people to even sit. So that's my sense. Thank you.
Appreciate the points. Well made. Let me keep doing on questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much. we live across the Montage and Ocean Vista, and we live on Maryland Drive. And during the summer and on the weekends, we sometimes just can't access our home at all. And I have elderly parents, and they sometimes they'll just be going around in circles, and then they just have to leave because they can't even come. And I'll ask that there's such inconsiderate people coming into this town. For instance, I asked very politely if you could just not park here. My parents are coming in about 5 minutes, and they just said, we have the right to park here. And I said, there was plenty of parking where there was paid parking, but it's free in front of my house, as everybody's saying here. It's completely free because it's just my house, and I have to pay, obviously, we have to pay for our house. We have to pay our taxes. But these people have huge coolers. They use my trash cans. I have like full trash cans on Maryland Drive that are just filled up with all, and luckily they use the trash. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just leave trash all over and empty. I mean, I had one guy, my 18-year-old son had to follow me because he had left his monster truck in front of my house for 3 days. And he was so scared. He came up to my door because we finally called, because I guess there is a law in Laguna that you can't leave your car over 3 days and overnight. And he came up to my door, banging on my door, wanting to know why I was giving him a warning. It wasn't even a ticket, it was a warning. And he was banging, and he was violent, was crazy, just went psychotic on me. My 18-year-old started taking a video because he was scared for me that this guy was getting, and all I was saying is, if you could just be considerate, I live here, I need that parking space. I have 3 children. We're trying to access our home. He just went irate at me. And I don't need this. Like, we're residents here. We live here. We should all be polite. I understand that people want to go to the beach, and I'm super polite to the people that are polite to me, but majority of the people this summer and last summer have not been considerate. And like I'm saying safety issues, trash, fireworks somebody saw. I mean, that could cause a fire in our whole city, like what just recently happened. I mean, it's scary. I hope my thoughts, I know he had some ideas and he had some ideas. My thoughts were just painting the curb. Our friends live in Dana Point, and they said they just all agreed that we painted the curb and said resident park just here, no beach parking, resident parking. I don't know, what the rules are, if that could get passed, or if they do come park, like I'm saying, they need to have to pay, because we cannot create more spaces and more people coming here with our residents suffering like I am. So I just want to make my point.
So let me take a sidebar with you. I appreciate those comments. Maybe we'll do a brief show of hands on some things. And Aaron and I were exchanging an email about this. So one of the reasons that we didn't propose parking in the neighborhoods was because I didn't feel like the city should propose that. I would want to hear from the residents first. And for my context, I live near Thalia, and I'm the block up from where people no longer have to pay. And I see a little impact, but not like South Laguna or not like the Maryland streets around Treasure Island. But so what I was explaining to Aaron was, if we go to the Coastal Commission with a residential parking program, the Coastal Commission and our own documents, our own local coastal program, prohibits us from doing a residential only parking program. We do have shoppers permits though. So remember, the rule with the shoppers permits is you can park as long as the regulation allows you to park. So if we did parking in the neighborhoods, paid parking in the neighborhoods, we could do that. And then the question would be, what kind of hour limits do we have? And the Coastal Commission will push us for 3 or 4 hours versus 6 or 8 or 10 hours. So that would mean that if you lived there and had a shopper's permit and you could park in front of your house and not pay, but you would have to obey the time limits. So the question would be, because again, remember, a residential only parking program is prohibited by our own documents, our own local coastal program. Yeah, let me tell you, remember Laguna Beach, fairly uniquely, is almost 100% in the coastal zone. You can go to other areas, Dana Point, Newport. Costa Mesa is almost not in the coastal zone at all. I don't think they have anything in the coastal zone. But anything that's in the coastal zone, and again, the only area of Laguna Beach that is not in the coastal zone is way out by El Toro Road, that little place, the part of town beyond the toll road. So and that means the Coastal Commission either has direct jurisdiction or appealable jurisdiction on anything that the council does. So the commission can call up something if they don't like what we've done, or individuals can call things up from Laguna if they don't like what we've done. That's generally how all that works. So the Coastal Commission has said, I don't think they've approved residential parking permits for anybody in the state in recent years. Newport had some, but they were before the Coastal Commission took that mindset. So I'm not saying we can't try it. I'm saying a better path is to say paid parking in the neighborhoods, but follow the shopper's permits. You'd have to, if you had a shopper permit, you had to follow the hourly limits. Let me see a show of hands. How many people would, and this is kind of like we have in a lot of, hold on, before we vote. This is kind of, we have a lot of Laguna, North Laguna, where I live in Central Laguna. We have those first couple of blocks are paid parking, and then the rest is not. Wait, hold.
Well, here,
Because that's what's not allowed. The Coastal Commission doesn't allow a de facto or a fake.
Government, not.
Sorry, Yeah, they have jurisdiction over anything in the coastal zone
Yeah,
more than
they-
we
I
do,
think we were a charter city.
They even have.
even if we're a charter city.
So they're our government, not.
Just. Real,
Well, I'm sorry, I'm letting this get out of control, but, why don't we go with the mic if that's okay?
okay, me first, sorry, I'm asserting authority. Okay. I just really quickly wanted to clarify with along the lines of your thinking.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's limited for a certain period of time and you're saying 3 or 4 or 5 hours. So in my proposal, just to be clear for everybody who's here, if we're doing it on the weekends and we're doing it for an 8-hour period or a 6-hour period or a 5, like say it's 12 to 5 on weekends.
Yeah.
Then if it's a 5-hour period, that's what we're going for and that's when we charge. And that's what we're charging for. And if the parking pass, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the parking pass, if the visitors have a 5-hour period and the period of enforcement is 5 hours, then the parking pass will work for all 5 hours. And there won't be any
Right, so-
juggling of cars.
Aaron's correct.
Okay.
The issue would be, would the coastal commission approve that on appeal? And I'm not saying it's not worth trying. I don't know. Let's keep going around with the microphone.
Last thing real quick. The #1 mission statement of the California Coastal Commission is environmental protection. This isn't it. Allowing as many people onto the coast is not protecting the MPA.
I understand. How about folks who haven't spoken yet?
Just trying to make our way around the room, so let's get one.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm Joanne McMahon. I
Joanne.
reside on Aliso Circle and I'm
Yeah.
privileged enough it's a private road.
Yeah.
We insure it, we pave it, you can't park there. But in response to this young lady's comment, I get really rude, gnarly people coming onto my street trying to park and it's kind of scary. So, but I agree with absolutely everything that my heroes, Greg and Aaron, say. So I'm not going to repeat it. They've said it all. And it's changed so much and it's difficult, we just want it to get handled.
I appreciate it.
I know you've heard from me.
Yeah.
I've
You're very
been to lots of
articulate about
stuff.
your concerns. Yeah.
I'll pass it.
Yeah. Okay.
Deborah Gilbert, resident of South Laguna. My first comment is that we have a right to live peacefully in our neighborhood. We really do. And we don't. And, you guys are talking about parking and the key element is enforcement. And it can come in various ways. And, when you look at metered parking, please look at Park City. What happens there is you have the meters, it's, based on a QR code. You put the license plate in, you put your telephone number in, and then, it wakes you up when you're about ready to expire and say, would you like to, extend your parking, right? Well, there's a back end to that piece too. And what it is that all the expired meters or the people that have paid, it goes to a code enforcement officer or an officer, and then he doesn't have to look at every car, right? But we have to get strict. We have to have a reputation that, if you're not going to pay for your parking, you're going to get a citation. And well, but yeah, get towed. But, we have a reputation for parking like we're pansies. We'll allow anything, and it's happening. And I really truly believe that we need, whatever we enact, is that we have to enforce it. And yeah, maybe in years 1 and 2 and 3, it's going to be expensive, but we'll get a reputation and then we'll get compliance. And what you want is compliance. You want that person to pay for the parking, get reminded, oh, I need to pay more. And then we're out of that picture, And then as a side note is that if, we do generate revenue, I know it's going to have to go to the beaches, but we'd like some of it to be used in South Laguna.
I appreciate it though. Good comments. Thank you.
I'm just trying to go in order who put theirs.
Hi, my name is Arlene, and I live above Thousand Stairs Beach, which is a chronic haunt for teenagers. And I live right off of 8th Street, and I've had incidents where I couldn't even get into my street because the traffic was so blocked up with people trying to park on Sunset. Now, if the only place you can have a meter that's safe has to have a sidewalk, Sunset has to be 1.5 miles long behind there, and it's stacked with cars. So do we have a safety hazard there? They park on 9th Street by the light where you're not supposed to park. People come around the corner, can't get up because they park on the section that's close to the thing and they can't, 2 cars can't go. So now somebody's sitting out in the middle of PCH when the traffic light changes, they're screwed. You know, it's dangerous in that area. It really is dangerous. And I don't understand why we don't put a parking stanchion thing there where you get a ticket and put it up there. And I don't know why it has to have sidewalks because it doesn't now. So are we endangering the people that come to park there now?
Again, all fair questions. And as I was noting, I think we need to have a better conversation with our legal counsel about what we're allowed to do under state law, which we're doing concurrent with this meeting.
I've been trying to make the case for parking in the residential neighborhoods being paid for a number of years, actually. But I've also been chastened as a political scientist and a realist by the reality that the Coastal Commission is pretty tough to turn into what many of you have suggested, which I think is a great idea, which is restricting parking in our neighborhoods. So I've come up with a middle-sized proposal that's not as radical as what many of you have suggested, but I do believe it could get through Coastal. Let me just try and describe it real quickly. So you extend the parking tees, that's the painting on the ground, and parking paid into about 3 to 5 blocks inland from Coast Highway through our neighborhood. You implement this 7 days a week and for 8 hours a day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Each legal resident gets 2 hang tags that they can put on vehicles that allow them to park in those spaces at no charge. However, anyone who doesn't have a hang tag must pay to park there, and they can park for as much as 8 hours. So it's an 8-hour zone. I'm going to disagree a little bit with our city manager that Coastal would say, oh no, you can't have an 8-hour range. So somebody can pull into the neighborhood, park for 8 hours, but pay for those 8 hours to pay there. Now, you have to actively enforce ticketing. Obviously, we've all said that. Why I think the Coastal Commission might accept this, 3 reasons. First, it is not residents-only parking. It allows for anyone to park there. It doesn't reduce the number of parking places available from what we currently have. It's just that now you have a differential between residents who can park in those places for free during that 8-hour period and visitors who must pay. And finally, we can argue to Coastal, it's a reasonable user fee for visitors to help offset all the substantial costs that we've just talked about. The damage to our environment, congestion, public safety and marine safety, human waste, congestion, etc. I genuinely believe that this proposal could pass muster at Coastal, unlike anything that's much more restrictive.
Appreciate the comments. John, and then I think Pat Mena's had her hand up a long time. John just sees the mic. Okay.
Yeah, I grabbed it.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know the format, so I prepared a
There's
3
no
minutes.
format.
Well,
We're just
I
being
did a
polite.
3-minute speech and figured Alex would cut me to 2,
Okay.
so I'd talk real
No,
quick.
there's no 3-minute limit. It's a gentle person's 3-minute limit.
So, but before I do that, two questions. One is, at some point in this meeting, could you explain where you're going to pick up the additional spaces on the inland side? We showed a map, but I couldn't figure out what you were doing, how you were picking them up.
Were we going to bring a hard copy of that? I think, yeah. We can show that towards the end if you'd like. We have some hard
I
copies.
just
It
wanted to understand
didn't
what
work
you're
really
doing.
well on the screen.
Okay. And then the other is, this is just a question I dug out of the budget, the dollar of fines for parking that we pick up on the budget, $575,000. And then I pulled out the Parking Enforcement Division, which costs $1.4 million.
Remember, they don't just do enforcement, but I appreciate the point.
So,
You made it in your email. I
I
thought it
mean,
was effective.
We all want more enforcement, but
Yeah.
if it's upside down, we got to fix that somehow. Or you can explain.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's my 3-minute thing. And this ties into the fact that you have to go to coastal. So this is an opportunity. You're going to be talking to coastal. And I think the coastal conversation this time needs to be very substantive beyond just what we would normally expect you to talk about. So I have comments on both of the issues tonight. One is the Aliso lot, and the other is the paid parking in South Laguna. So here's my bit. It's time to have the conversation with the Coastal Commission about parking rates, resident parking, and the impacts of beach visitors on Laguna, both physically and financially. Regarding the Aliso Beach parking lot, focusing only on the economics, the likely financial benefit to the city of adding parking, especially to the inland lot, is marginal at best. The inland lot is the overflow lot and is used less than the beachfront lot, meaning less revenue per space. Both lots are seasonal, so revenue projections using citywide averages may be inaccurate. The city focuses on gross revenue, but net revenue from parking is much lower. Salaries, wages, maintenance, and operations cost 60% of total parking revenue, meaning that even excluding transit, net revenue from parking, according to the budget, is only 41% of gross revenue. And capital costs eat up 32% of parking revenue. By the time the city recovers its investment in the proposed changes that were proposed earlier for the Aliso lot, the lots will probably need to be refurbished again. So you just go through this all again and you will not really be very much ahead. In addition to the direct costs of parking operations, including maintenance and enforcement, accommodating more beach visitors will increase demands for marine safety, paramedics, and police, which eventually will be reflected in increased costs that are not accounted for in the net parking revenue numbers. All in all, the economics of increasing parking at Aliso Beach are marginal at best. So I would be for the least expensive, program that you would go for.
Flurry and repave plan.
Something simpler,
Restripe.
less expensive.
Flurry and restripe.
Okay. As to the paid parking in South Laguna, if the city wants paid parking on South Coast Highway, I support that only if it is, as many of the people are saying, only if it is accompanied by paid parking in the neighborhoods that are impacted by beach parking, and only if residents are allowed to park free. Okay. And I understand, we've all heard what you said about the reluctance that you expect from coastal to allow that. But I think we have an argument. I understand the staff's belief that that will not be acceptable to Coastal Commission, but this is the time to confront this issue with coastal for the following two reasons. It's time to make the Coastal Commission aware of the unusual imbalance between visitor-related city government revenue and visitor-related city government costs that Laguna occurs due to beach visitors. As you know, I can go on at length about how we are not covering, visitor revenue is not covering visitor costs. And because we are a small city with a lot of visitors, the impact on us is much different than other cities like Newport and Huntington Beach, which Huntington Beach has 200,000 people to spread the cost over. We have 20. Coastal probably has never bothered to think of it in those terms. I think we should tell them, make the case that this is different here. Number two, and I don't think many people are very aware of this, prior to 1989, there was no public access to South Laguna beaches except for Aliso Beach. But in 1986, the county produced a full-blown EIR. It is about the only full-blown EIR I've ever seen in Laguna. And the documentation accompanying the resolution to approve literally says, quote, certain considerations make it infeasible to mitigate certain significant effects, including beach safety, parking, sanitation, and pedestrian safety. Nevertheless, the County Board of Supervisors in 1988 approved opening public access to West Street, Table Rock, Thousand Steps, and other South County beaches. While the county knowingly approved these changes without adequate mitigation, they could not have predicted how much worse those unmitigated impacts would become with social media, TV shows like OC and the Laguna Beach and so forth. It is time to fix that. So I wouldn't call it exactly a bargaining chip, but if the city does spend its own money to increase some parking, make some more parking available in Aliso Creek, I think a part of that conversation with the Coastal Commission should be, if we are going to provide more access to more people to park at Lee's Creek, we want you to listen to our arguments and consider the financial, physical impacts that these tourists are having on Laguna Beach, which are much greater per capita than they are from any other cities. And maybe they could bend their rules a little bit and make some exceptions. So that's my pitch.
Well put. They are very narrow. Yeah. They are very narrow. Yeah. Appreciate that.
My name is Myron Walkholder. I've had the good fortune of living on Thousand Steps Beach basically for 50 years. So I've seen a lot of changes. Fortunately, I got in there when I could buy a shack for nothing, and nowadays a lot more expensive. But I see the hospital. I used to practice there, in fact, earlier days. And there's that big parking lot that the hospital has on the Coast Highway. It's not used a lot. The hospital is not going to be there much longer. It's amazing that it's stayed as long as it has. Medicine's changed so dramatically that it makes no sense, and it doesn't have any chance of the way medicine is specialized, because the volume would never be enough to make it successful. So I know it's losing money. It isn't that we wouldn't want to have in the community access to primary care and lab and x-ray and things like that, but not have an inpatient hospital. In addition to that, the cost to have it comply with the new regulations is not possible. It's no way that hospital is going to stay there. It's amazing it stayed there as long. So that's a very valuable piece of property. And it's owned, I think it's owned by the hospital. Yeah. But, you know, the hospital, and because it's so high, it's not going to block anybody's view behind it. That hospital is plenty high enough already. So you can build a pretty significant, well, not only a parking structure in the front, I'm getting to that. Wait.
We're all being polite here. Everybody's listening.
Let me finish it. I mean, there'll be a 3-story or so living quarter, whether it's a rental or it's whatever it is, maybe for senior patients, it make a lot of sense, and the hospital will end up being profitable. In front, you have a lot. You could easily put a 2nd story on there, and I live right across the street, so it's going to, in a way, it'll affect me, I guess. But there's plenty of parking to the back, and even if you took a 2nd story and have the 1st story only for public parking, you know, the city wouldn't make money on it, but it wouldn't have to spend money. It wouldn't have to spend money. So you have a large parking option there. Thousand Steps Beach I've lived on for 50 years. It's a lot busier, and it's very dangerous on the highway. People walking down that highway just constantly and dangerous. So that's another way of thinking of a parking possibility, negotiating with I think it's the hospital
Providence, yeah.
ownership.
Sorry, I'm just gonna.
So, you know, I think that's a realistic parking option that isn't dangerous and wouldn't necessarily cost the city any money in the way how it might negotiate. So I hope you take that into consideration, because it's not long at all before that's going to be knocked down. They can't afford to possibly build it back up, and there's no, you know, no need for a hospital.
Appreciate the comments.
So I just want to make sure everyone has their first opportunity to speak. So I've got
We promised
two.
Pat you could go next. I did.
Okay,
Then we-
okay. And then I'll come back
Check the
here
clock.
and then I'll go back over there because I know I've got people raising their hands over here too as well. So, but I want to give everyone the opportunity to speak first, and then if
Is it dangerous when the city manager knows your name?
Can be.
Thank you for this meeting.
You're welcome.
Pat Minna, the red house on the corner of 10th Avenue and PCH. We're the 5th owner. We've been there 30 years. Bought it from the older brother of Herbie Fletcher. But anyway, love my house, love where I live. My husband's a land planner. His whole career is interfaced with redesign, redevelopment, historic properties, nature worldwide. We have some savvy professional background. So this is going to sound really radical, and I can say something about everything. I'm also a RE/MAX broker, so I deal with private property ownership rights and property lines and property pegs. So Coast Highway is only developed to 80 feet right there. It's a 100-foot scenic corridor. But the bigger issue is how does Caltrans put meters in? And I'm not opposed to meters on Coast Highway. I just don't know how they're going to do it. And now that we have this new parking at the intersection, you can't park 20 feet?
20 feet in advance.
20 feet? Got it. Okay. This is my radical approach. I believe those little flashing signs at our city entrances, we have 3, need to say Aliso Beach parking full, Main Beach parking full. I think we need to be hardcore and reactive to the cars that are coming into Laguna. And that's the radical thing. But for me, I live at 10th Avenue. The triangle south of 10th Avenue, Virginia Way, Sunset, to the property peg of where it intersects 3 Arch Bay property. There are 74 homes there, and there are 24 public spaces. The neighborhood doesn't even have parking for their cars. There's properties on Virginia Way, literally, that do not have a parking space. And the lots, and we're talking Coast Highway to Virginia Way is 150 feet. So a lot of those properties have ingress egress property line down to Coast Highway. So every single property here in Laguna has challenges, every single one, whether it's up by the Montage, Eagle Rock, Scenic, Sunset. I have a unique situation that we live on the corner, and that first block, if everyone cooperates, there's 10 available public spaces. I encourage every one of you to go into the municipal code and read about the 72-hour public parking municipal code. I encourage every one of you to have no prisoners and to call parking enforcement every time there's an infraction. But I do think we need to be harder core. I would like to see vehicles towed. The sign says tow away. I would like to see no prisoners and have the tow truck show up. I think the fines need to be quadrupled and truly make it uncomfortable. The next issue that you really get involved to, safety, is the ingress and egress out of our tight little streets. My big pet peeve when I leave my house, first of all, I can barely get out of my driveway because the cars are lined up. And if you're going south from 10th Avenue, if there's a car parked in that no parking zone, you literally cannot see. It's a true safety. And I tell you, I'm the one who calls. Every time there's a car there, I'm calling. So we need to have better enforcement, but the issue that I see is I don't want any more parking built. I really don't. And I'd agree with Greg. Well, guess what? If you build it, they will come. We have enough parking at Aliso. We really do. And we've all seen the tides, and we've all done that. And I'm also against that front row parking. Even though I live where I live, I still work. I go in and out constantly. I try to avoid the village because I can't get through anymore. Thank God I'm closer to Crown Valley. But that putting parking on that first row in that oceanside lot of Aliso, that's criminal. Do you know how many people come during the day and just have a sandwich there and take a break and see the ocean? Wait, including myself. Sometimes I'll pick something off at Zinc and I'll stop there because the minute I get home, everyone's chewing on me. They need something. My phone's ringing. So even I do that, as goofy as it is. Next thing is cell coverage. I've had Verizon for God knows 35 years. It used to be LA Cellular. In the last year, I now don't have cell connectivity on my corner. I'm anyway. So it's lovely to have the app, and I have the app, and I see the trolley, and I see everything. But you guys, I love living here. I love everyone. I love my neighbors, but it's not that easy of a fix. And the traffic going in and out of our streets is crazy. And yes, it is one car lane by the time you park on both sides of my street, and we're wider than 5th Avenue, 2nd Avenue, Eagle Rock. I've got all those stats about intersection widths and about parking. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I appreciate it.
And I appreciate the meeting, but, oh, one last thing, Coastal Commission. Having viewed the Coastal Commission, the last 2 appeals that just went through about the fire station and about the promenade, Coastal Commission, it's a Jekyll and Hyde. They voted and took away all our beautiful parking. They went against our city plan and levied this horrendous promenade buffoon plan. They're awful. I just think we play hardball and say, we're going to do this like we did in Moss, in Moss area, and do it.
I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. We can go till 6, but so just, we don't have a time limit so far, but just please use that to guide yourself.
I'm Charlie Thomas. I live on Maryland, and I think we should save Aliso Beach.
Meaning not add any more parking.
We saved Laguna Canyon, and we're going to save Aliso Beach. If you try to put any more parking in Aliso Beach, you are going to have a fight on your hands.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna come back here and then
Try to get people who haven't spoken yet, and then we'll do seconds.
Karen Louisi. I live on West Street. I've lived third owner of my house.
Which street, sorry?
West Street.
West Street, okay.
Yes, third owner, 25 years. Okay, so you've heard everyone's complaints about the visitors at South Laguna. This is the way to even the playing field. Add the parking spaces, even the playing field. Maybe they'll keep driving. Maybe they won't stop and go to our beaches. So I get it. But Aliso, but you're doing too much at once. You took over the beaches. West Street is a disaster. Someone's going to fall down those stairs. The maintenance is awful.
Which the stairs?
West Street stairs.
At the intersection?
86 stairs.
Yeah.
You have a construction zone that has redirected the water course to drain on the stairs. So the stairs are wet 24/7 going down 40 feet that you have people carrying all this stuff. They're going to slip. Then you have the neighbor on Bluff Drive who's mad that he can't have his trees. And so now his irrigation is draining on the stairs on the other side. The county put in a drainage pipe and redid all the drip from the natural mapped water course that runs along West Street Canyon. And they redid all the drainage pipes, and the silt that has run down from the construction site has covered up the pipe. I have all the pictures there with Public Works right now. I'm trying to deal with them and trying not to bother you. So I am in favor. You cannot touch Aliso until you show that you can maintain the beaches, and you can't maintain the beaches. You guys don't know how.
Okay.
You don't have the people on probation that work for free. That's how they did it. If you got a DUI, you worked our beaches. That's how the county it's true. That's how the county kept the beaches clean. It's a mess. So I say, I love the idea about the residential property, and I figure out that you realize that we're being unfairly impacted because we don't have parking on Coast Highway. Park on Coast Highway, do the residential thing with the shoppers. I don't buy a shopper pass. I'll have to now, but that's okay. But really just leave Aliso alone. It's so precarious because there's not going to be a beach.
Okay, thank you. Ann Christoph had her hand up.
Hi, I'm Ann Christoph, and I was at that Coastal Commission meeting last week in Calabasas with Dave and all the other friends of the Promenade and the South Laguna Fire Station. And I was amazed at how little they cared about public parking. They have changed, they have become a whole different group. Somehow maybe our city has converted them, but they didn't care that 48 parking spaces were being lost in the middle of downtown Laguna and not being replaced. That was fine with them. They said, oh, the city has buses, the city has trolleys, the city has all these innovative programs. So it doesn't matter that they've lost these 48 spaces. They also didn't care that there are 4 spaces on Coast Highway being lost because of the fire station driveway going out on Coast Highway instead of going out on 5th. So it was amazing to me. I think we're dealing with a whole different philosophy at the Coastal Commission. I don't think we should assume that philosophy that produced these restrictions on what we can do in our neighborhoods and parking and so forth is still going to be something that they are interested in doing. So I think we should propose what's going to work best for us and go there and say, look, you know, we're trying to do our best to cope with this situation. I also agree with the comment that Aliso should have a park plan, not a parking plan, because it is our main beach park, and we have to consider how much is eroded and what the ocean patterns are going to do. We should plan for that, and we should end up with something beautiful instead of a damaged ocean front.
Thanks, Ann. Okay, so we're still looking for first timers, first commenters. Okay, and then seconds.
Kurt Allen, 3100 block of Sunset. I'm between and I've met neighbors here. I have 3 quick points I'll make. I'll be brief because everybody's going on and on, but it's all good comments. Thank you for the meeting. First of all, I went to Del Mar with my pregnant daughter yesterday and put the card into the thing, and it said for the first 0 to 2 hours, how much? Anyone know? $25. The next beyond 2 hours to 4 hours, $50. Beyond 4 hours, not available. Okay. You make parking cost people, they won't do it. The parking area that I was going to park in had 2 cars in it. I mean, so make it, money fixes a lot of things. You know, you just got to think about it the right. Yeah, it was a beautiful beach experience. My daughter's pregnant. She's ready to pop. It was great compared to Thousand Steps. I lived there for 13 years. I have neighbors across the street, 50 years. Dave next door to us, 45 years. I mean, they don't even think about going to the beach anymore because it's turned into such, can I say shit show? It's a shit show down there. And this group of people that are coming, not all of them, there's very polite younger kids and stuff like that, but there's quite an element of staking their turf. You know, this is my part of the beach, and so that's too bad. I try and kill them with kindness, but anyway. The other thing that's very humble to me and important to me is that our road becomes a circle, and they drive incredibly fast because they're trying to reach that parking place before somebody else gets to it. And they park in crazy ways. I have pictures, I can share them with you, and they can't. It's a one-way road already. And I mean, it's turned my wife from, you know, this mild-mannered woman into a screaming lunatic out the balconies going, you can't park there, don't pee there, don't, yeah, exactly. It's It's too bad. But so those are my three issues. Cost, think about it from a finance. That's what I did with all of my companies is everything was always remedied with some function of cost. You have a great opportunity. I mean, these other beach communities know what their parking is worth. If you take our houses and divide it into some formula that tells you how big a parking place, I mean, I live on a 5,800 square foot lot, and, $5 million house. It's like, do the math. I mean, somebody park on that, that'd be, but let's find the areas. The hospital was mentioned. That's a great idea. There's a couple blank lots there by the vegetable people, the vegetable garden in town. Anything, make parking. I mean, obviously restaurants can't make it in our town anymore because the rents are so high. Make parking an option for them, if they do a nice parking thing. So yeah, anyway, that's about all I got to say.
Thanks for
Thanks
the
for
comments.
listening.
Still looking for first-time commenters.
Hello, I'm Nicole Strathman. I live on Coast Highway at West Street. I have the pleasure of backing out onto West Street. So some of you might have T-boned me or tried to at some point in your life. I get the every once in a while I get a chance to possibly run over a tourist because they actually walk behind my car while I'm backing up. And so anyway, what I'm curious about is this. I know the Coastal Commission has jurisdiction over us and all that, but this is still local LCP. We can do stuff with zoning here. Why don't we do something like we've done with CERT, where we kind of allow people to, we train them on how to, evacuate and all that. Why don't we deputize our residents and allow our residents to give parking permits or parking tickets? We could train them. You could give out pads of paper and our residents could be deputized. This actually comes from my attorney husband who says, why aren't we deputized on, giving people parking tickets? If there's not enough parking staff or the city cannot hire staff for this. So why not just deputize the residents? There's your answer. And then we can each have pads of paper, and when a car is there too long, it's not your problem, or it's not the city's problem of sending out somebody. We don't have to call. We can do it ourselves. You can give us agency back to the taxpayers here of the city and let us do something about it. So it's a simple thing with the LCP and the Coastal Commission to allow that for our zoning, it says. I was just looking it up. So why not just deputize the people?
I appreciate the suggestion. I do. I'm not taking that flippantly. I'm happy to talk with the city attorney and folks about that. Remember, there's a reason we don't have a robust volunteer program. I'll liken it to that. And that's in part because of the city's insurance provisions and liability. What happens if you're a volunteer and you're deputized and you're in a confrontation? We're so on the hook for whatever happens. And I'm not saying you would do something. What if you did something? What if you or another person did something that wasn't appropriate with that? Well, a waiver of liability, as the attorney in your family would know, does not preclude that person from still suing, and an awful lot of money being spent trying to defend that. So that's just where my brain goes when you say that. I'm happy to research it further, though, and I appreciate the suggestion. Go ahead, sir.
Hi there, Joe Silva. I've been a resident since 2020 of Laguna Beach. I'm an electrical engineer. I've been in transportation for 15 plus years. I'm actually advising LA City right now on rebuilding of the Palisades, working with LA DOT and others. We've got about 8 weeks to give them a plan of the future, working directly with Mayor's office there. And we've been researching solutions to help alleviate parking in coastal regions. And something that has become very apparent is public-private partnerships could be used to help manage parking. The Gelsons, for example, right? Big lot, it's completely unused, and they're just trying to spend time, tow people the whole time. Work out a deal with these people, put in some effective enforcement, and now you have ways to better manage where you actually have safe places for egress and ingress, and for people to cross in a safe area, and it can pull some of these people out of neighborhoods. So I think effective use of existing capacity that's already in the network has to be looked at. I believe the city, if I recall right, did a study a while back and highlighted north of 500
It's a huge
locations.
part of our planning is private lots that are used in a public way.
So I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
And then the second component is signage. I think there was a comment earlier about, parking lot full, stopping the seeking. Another thing we're looking at for the Palisades, right? We're gonna have a ton of construction traffic there, a lot of people coming in and out. And a net result is you have to communicate to it, people. And the most effective way is to put lightweight, effective signage. It doesn't have to be these big orange things that take up lane space, but you can put signage along the way, that provide dynamic messaging to drivers to let them know that this area is full, and it can stop a lot of the congestion that you're getting as well. So there's just some suggestions to consider. And also looking at technology for enforcement, I just want to note that there are lightweight cameras out there. We've all heard of flock safety. Read the news recently. There's a lot of technology out there like that today that can make you a lot more effective with that limited resources staff that you do have. So and then if residents have an issue, well, maybe you do have some cameras at various locations that can give you some insight in those troubled areas. Those are overnight solutions. You just throw a camera up. I mean, you can get a Ring camera with a 4G modem on it half the time. I'm not saying to use something like that, but you just showing how accessible the technology is.
I appreciate this.
So I think effective enforcement is something else to consider across this. And the last piece is, could you actually lease parts of the city back to private owners or to private entities to manage? Because forget the ticket, tow the car. Like that is the most effective way. Matter of fact, private parking lots can just tow cars.
Sure.
And that sends a much bigger message than a $50 fine that I'm never going to pay. And good luck tracing me down. Right. So that's the other thing is when you enter those public-private partnerships or you convert land and now you allow a private entity or group of residents to manage that, they can tow at will within certain rights. So I think that's another way. And also you can alleviate the city of the legal ramifications of that as well, because it's leased. I know this because I've worked in toll roads my entire life, worked for global toll companies. We lease roads for like 50-year concessions for billions of dollars. This could be done at a small scale. They're called public-private partnerships, and you're going to see a lot more of that coming in the future across many states as we're all looking for new ways to build sustainable revenue sources. But this is just my last comment is, if you do anything, and I would implore you to look at public-private partnerships as a very fast and effective way to deal with some of these challenges. And it might be able to help you get around some of the laws that Coastal Commission has.
Thanks for the suggestions. Okay, we've had first time, everybody's gone through. Aaron, okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Hi, my name is Erin Slattery. I'm a resident on Eagle Rock Way in Santa Rosa. And there were just a couple of things that I wanted to reiterate. I really like the T markings being painted up into the neighborhoods. I have several neighbors that have big signs in front of their gates. Please do not park in front of my gate. So it'd be nice to have just T signs designating the parking spaces where people can park. And then on half of our street, it's no parking on this side of the street. So if there's T markings on one side of the street, but not on the other, it would clarify that there's no parking on that side of the street. Also, I really love the idea of turning Aliso Beach into more of a park and having less parking there and more of a park. I think that would be beautiful for our city. As a recent person that was very in tune with our local businesses, I feel like the parking should be there to support our local businesses and not the beach. The beach should be, saved ecologically and sustainably, but we do have businesses in South Laguna. We have beautiful restaurants that we want to support with parking, and I think that needs to be mentioned here. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Good thoughts. Okay, we're going for round two now.
Well, anybody?
Go up front here? We have one up front too.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Christina. My family's lived here for over 35 years, and it's good to know that I'm not alone in this experience. In summary of what I've seen and heard tonight, it doesn't sound like we need to put parking in Aliso Beach. It sounds like we need to deal with the neighborhoods. This last summer, it's been miserable. We've had similar experiences to neighbors yelling at my 81-year-old mother when we were trying to save a parking spot so that she could come in. We have people parking in front of fire hydrants that are not marked, that just have white paint on them as opposed to red paint. So they think that they can park there right in front of them. And what happens when a fire truck comes on our street? They can't get in because there's so many people parking on the wrong side of the street, on the right side of the street. I'm on West, just like these guys up above on West. I call you guys every day and say, there are 2 people parked in front of the fire hydrant. Sometimes they come, sometimes it's only a warning, but yeah, tow them, number 1. It should be a $500 fine because we don't want, when a fire comes, we don't want the trucks not to be able to come up and save us and save our homes. And it's ridiculous that the signs have been taken down off of West, Valito, and Paso del Sur up there. The people have taken the signs down, don't park on the right side of the street. And nothing's marked. And that's why these tourists think that they can come and be so bold to park in front of our fire hydrants. That is like a slap in the face to everyone in Laguna Beach, that they think that they can block our fire hydrants that would save us and our homes. And so I don't want to wait 6 years, and I don't even want to wait until next summer. Immediately, it needs to be marked. It is not my job to call you guys every day and say, please come give a warning to this tourist who's parking in front of my fire hydrant again. Okay, that can be easily solved. The parking permits, I lived in San Francisco for many years. You get the neighborhood parking passes. You can park in your own neighborhood, okay? And no, I don't think it should be for 5 hours or 8 hours, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours max. But we need our parking spaces so that we can get into our homes. And I could say everything that everyone else has said, but it needs to happen now, not later. And it needs to be focused in the neighborhoods, not Aliso Beach.
Hi, my name is Cindy Love. I live on Scenic Drive at Fifth Avenue near the hospital, and I've lived there for 40 years, and since we were under the county. And I wanted to support the group. Most everything that everyone said about the neighborhoods is we've experienced as well. I like Jim Danziger's suggestions, and I think that we have opportunities with the Coastal Commission. But I wanted to bring up also, and I appreciate the idea of exploring further the public-private partnerships with those areas that have parking, like Gelson's or the hospital. But what I wanted to mention that hasn't been talked about so far is one of the concerns that I've had for a while, since, I don't know, last 8 years or so within this is emerging, is the intensity of parking along Coast Highway on the inland side between the hospital, basically to Vista del Sol. There is no parking, there's no sidewalk. People park kind of willy-nilly because there aren't the T's. They've got gear, they've got kids, they've got chairs, they've got coolers. They come for, from early morning until after sunset now. And I think that we can look at those areas and manage them in a way like if we looked at, say, getting the data that counts of parking spaces that we have. And then we say, okay, let's not have parking on that side of the street. It might give that side of Coast Highway. That parking then could be moved to somewhere like Gelson's or the hospital or something. So there would be a net zero. The idea would be like a net zero, that we wouldn't be taking away access to anyone if we start looking at it that way. And then if the city happens to charge parking fees for the Coast Highway, down that end, folks are already, hiking in to, I'll call it hiking. It's a stretch. They didn't used to walk that far down from 3 Arch Bay to 1,000 Steps. Will relieve the total volume of people that I think that are going to that beach. We can protect our coastal resources that way better and kind of refocus folks to the areas where we may capture parking. And that will facilitate enforcement, because without enforcement, as people have said, people just are going to ignore this. Like, we're probably not going to get caught. We see it in front of our house. If we don't call all the time, we also have the fire hydrant issue. I want to digress for a moment about that because I've learned there's a fire hydrant right next to our house, and we have the same problem. People park, they see it, they don't even care. It's white. And that's a South Coast Water District thing. That's the color that South Coast Water District uses for their hydrants. And I would imagine that we could, as a community, the city even could go to South Coast Water District and suggest that they change to yellow, at least for Laguna, so it could be consistent citywide, because it is a real problem. It's just people don't take it seriously as a real fire hydrant. We've even purchased signs and all of that stuff, but you have to point it out. See, do you notice that you're near a fire hydrant? And I have to think, like, if the house burns down, I want this person's license plate because I'll sue them. I don't care. Anyway, so I'm digressed enough on that. But anyway, I think that we can look at how we can take the volume that we're parking right now and even it out to places where making it more safe on Coast Highway, pushing it to places where there may be parking facilities available, capture revenue there without building parking structures, without, going to all odds to create expensive ways to enforce. And then with that concept of a net zero, and then the next point of that would be to look to where we would want to also capture sales tax and bed tax. It's like, let's figure out a way to get our visitors to go to the hotels, to go to the retail areas, to visit the restaurants and time those parking signs to those needs there, not to beachgoers, but to encourage retail sales, including restaurants and what have you. So I just wanted to add those comments into the things that we're considering here, and also add to the thanks for all of your good thinking and for hosting this for all of us. It's really a great opportunity to have a chance to speak. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Welcome.
I was going to say, does anyone else want their first opportunity to speak before we get to the next round? Okay.
Hi, my name is Ron Marshall, and I'm here with my wife Debbie, and we live on Coast Highway and have for 26 years. I'm all for the parking meters. I think that's a splendid idea, and I hope that happens. The other concern I have is the speeding that goes on. People get out of Laguna and get into our area, South Laguna. They go well past that 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. And the sign, the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit sign is no longer there. It used to be at Aliso Beach. It was knocked down in an accident a couple of years ago and not replaced. So I'd like to request that maybe you look into that and get it replaced for us.
Okay.
Thank
you for pointing that out. As this gentleman's noting, if you guys ever see something like that, use our little Ask Laguna function. It's the fastest way to get something resolved, better than calling a council member or me. No, sorry, it's on our website or on your phone. You can download the app. You sign in, and then you just take a picture of whatever is missing or is there inappropriately. And that goes right immediately to either code enforcement or parking or public works to resolve. And that way it doesn't even wait 3 days, especially if it's on a weekend. Sure. Yeah, that's what this lady's point. You should ask, we took notes too, but you should always send that in on Ask Laguna, the sediment going down the stairway. Yeah. We're still, okay, we're on seconds now. Go ahead, David there.
I'll be really brief because I already spoke.
Sorry, ask your question again. Yeah, they take public comment at every meeting for an hour. If you do it on Zoom, they take it at the last hour after they're done, or for when they're about to be done. Go ahead, sorry.
The main point I want to make is that all of these things we're talking about, nothing will work unless there's a better match of car traffic to parking spaces that are available. So you have to find a way to match available inventory of parking to vehicles. So the issue here for the Coastal Commission is access. So we would never go in and say, we might like to but in the short term, that we're going to restrict access. Every parking space that is available is accessible. We're not going to change that number of parking spaces. Residents are parking in parking spaces on the streets. Visitors are parking on parking spaces in the residential neighborhoods. The way out of this problem is to say you must have a ticket, a parking authorization for an available spot in the area you are going to. So there's no access issue. It's the same number of parking spaces. Access does not mean unlimited access. It doesn't mean that 500,000 people can come and expect to park in neighborhoods near the beach. So if we have 2,000 parking spaces in South Laguna, coupons, tickets should only be sold for parking that can be done in those spaces. Otherwise, even if you have a sign that says Aliso Beach parking full, Mission Beach parking full, they will just go into the neighborhood to look for parking. When they come, they need to know that they have a ticket that is sold for occupancy of the parking space, something like that 85% number that I mentioned before, so that they're not going around and around looking for parking. So we've got to find a way that says this is how many parking spaces there are, this is the only number of cars that can come. And that is not restricting access, that's matching access to infrastructure. And that should be our point to the
Yeah,
Coastal
your
Commission.
point's well taken. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm intrigued by having a conversation with Coastal as to whether or not they've seen that elsewhere. Yeah.
Real quickly, Justin in South Laguna. Before we adjourn today, I would love, everyone's made amazing, real-time, effective statements. I would love to turn it back to you guys and see like the top 3 to 5 bullet points that you agree with what we're saying, that you would like to incorporate into your next step in creating your plan to bring to City Council. Just kind of what stands out in your mind, what made the most sense of what we all said to incorporate it. You know, I'm a big action guy, so love to see kind of what your takeaway from our comments were today.
You're not just let us just nod our heads and close the meeting?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Thank you,
That's fair.
fabulous. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again for the opportunity to be able to say more comments. I spoke at the very, very beginning, but after listening to everybody speak, one big theme seems to be people wanting to feel safe in their own neighborhoods, which I think is very important. Because if you don't feel safe, you know, what do you have, right? And when I go to the farmer's market here on the weekend, even though it's, you know, ridiculously overpriced. But one thing you guys have downtown, which I was very happy to see because I've been living away and I've recently moved back, is you have all these people in jackets directing traffic. And it's a little bit overdone. You have 4 people managing one intersection, which easily one person can handle or 2 in front of the farmer's market. And half of them are standing there pretending like they're working. And same thing at Forest Avenue and Glen Eyrie. They're just standing there. And it's like, what are you doing? You have a blocked road. Like they can do other things. And it sounds like we have plenty of people that could possibly go to South Laguna to have a presence for safety. Or at Aliso, those same people. Now they can be trained properly, but you don't need 4 at one intersection for the farmer's market. Yes, I know they're children, but it sounds like they're children on the road at 1,000 Steps in Aliso. You can have people there because it's presence, and you need to have presence to deter people from parking or breaking the law. If they see someone that looks like they're from the city, they are going to see that presence and they're going to behave differently, whether they're a police officer, beach patrol, or something else. Another thing, so I go to Victoria Beach. I haven't seen Beach Patrol in a month and a half. And they used to harass us down there to the point where we fought back, the locals that play beach volleyball. I know you probably hate us down there, but at least we know how to act, and we recycle all of our cans, plastic, and even glass if we bring it down, but we discourage people from doing that. But I haven't seen enforcement down there. So if there's no enforcement, even if the city loses money, I think people would be okay with that if they saw the enforcement and they felt safe with that enforcement. But if they don't see the enforcement, then find out that the enforcement is actually losing money with the tickets that they're writing. Now you got people that are upset. But if they see it, they'll go, okay, I'm willing to maybe lose some money. I don't want to speak on people's behalves, but it's a cost that we're really willing to intake if people feel safe or they see people getting towed or tickets being written. And I think if you have those people downtown that are not doing anything, even though they're supposed to be, they can be deployed out to North Laguna, South Laguna to help make sure that the tourists are safe. Even though we don't like the tourists, we want to make sure they're safe. Nobody wants a lawsuit. Nobody wants anybody dying. And that will help discourage poor behavior, because if you come out yelling at me, I might be like, all right, go away, right? But if it's if it's somebody from the city that's more official, people will take that seriously, because it sounds like there's a lot of bad people that are coming to this town, and we need to discourage that behavior. And if we crack down Labor Day weekend, people will think twice about parking illegally, or coming into the city, because they don't spend money here. They go, like, I hear their receipts of certain places. They buy all their food, they buy all their supplies outside the city. They come in, they spend as limited amount as they can with parking, or zero, trash the beach, and then they leave. So we have to discourage that.
Understood.
And that's education, and that's having that, whether it's community-based or city-based enforcement.
I just needed another minute. So in the 30 years that I've lived there, and I've gone through some hormonal changes during those 30 years, sometimes I'm kind of trigger happy. I've really mellowed. And here's what I have experienced. Because people are cruising and cruising and cruising. And I say, hey, they're looking for spaces. I said, do you know that you can park at the hospital for free? Weekends and holidays. See, that's the other misnomer about your numbers. Weekends and holidays, weekdays after 5. So all those spaces are like Casper the Friendly Ghost. But here's what I'm going to say. A few months ago at a city council meeting, I recommended that a docent be at the steps of Thousand Steps. Because if people knew that they had to pack their trash out, I don't need 30 trash cans at the bottom of the stairs. I need people bringing less crap down to the beach that we have to cart up back up. But people are here to have fun, and God bless them, they should. So if we came with a warmer environment of the sign right there at 3 Arch Bay, right across from Kinsman's empty parking lot. I don't know why that's never been leased, but anyway, beach parking, hospital. That could be flashing on the weekends or after 5. So that's the missed opportunity that continues to be missed. The signage around the hospital has been eluded for 35 years since that city council meeting. But we need to do an education and tell people, park there. And then if there's an attendant at the lot saying, hey, no problem, park here, here's the access to the beach. That's what needs to be done, especially with Thousand Steps and the hospital.
Appreciate that suggestion too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi. So I just, while we've got staff here, on the issue of Aliso, since I see that probably coming to council anyway, the option 4, no matter what we say here, if you could expand.
Necessarily. I
Okay.
appreciate, guys, what you said.
All right. I appreciate that. So I had asked this question before and I didn't get a response. Could you expand a little bit on how you reached that $160,000 number for that option 4? You had sort of said that you think you revised the number and you thought it was justified. And like, how'd you come up with that number?
It's an average cost per space. So it takes into account the fact that it doesn't get used. They average the number of spaces, they average the revenue per year.
Is that an average at Aliso lots only, or is it citywide?
That was a Aliso lot. Yes.
Okay, so it's at Aliso lot, and you
Both lots.
you did account for the fact that you don't make any incremental revenue on additional spaces until the lot fills up. Is that correct? Or you tried to?
Right. So again, it's a rough estimate. We didn't get into analysis, but it does take into account when spaces are not used because it is an average.
Only in
And I double checked the numbers. So
do you plan to
be on
do you plan to share that calculation? Like if this comes back to if this comes back to council, do you plan to share that with the public so that
Yeah,
we
sure.
can analyze it?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. One more thing. Thank you. I did some searching on AI. I looked at some maps, and it looks to me like we have more people taking advantage of free parking in Laguna Beach than anywhere else in Orange County, and that's primarily or possibly exclusively in the form of parking on our residential streets. We have, we're basically self-selecting the people who want to come here for free because we let it be free. And so we really need to be addressing this, and we need to get away from building parking spaces, I think, anywhere in the city, whether it's Aliso, whether it's the hospital, whether it's the parking lot on Glen Eyrie or anywhere else. And we need to monetize the stuff that's right here in front of us that's being used. If we cannot exclude people from the residential areas in terms of parking, then we need to charge them to be there, and we don't need to be adding additional parking elsewhere so that we get the worst of all worlds. And so let's not pay, if we ever do want to add parking, the way I see that working, if we're going to pay $1 million to add parking at Aliso, to add 80 spaces, then I want to take 80 spaces out of the 1,000 Steps area, out of the residential area or my area, or spread it around so that there can be some residential parking. So we need to get away from spending money in the hopes that we're going to make it up on the rear end and these calculations are correct. And we just need to charge for the people who are already parking here for free.
I completely agree with Aaron. That was a great speech. So I kind of backing what Aaron said, and me being my Mr. Protector of the ocean and the coastline here in Laguna Beach that I love so much. I'm in the water almost daily. I was born and raised here, and I want future generations to be able to enjoy the beauty and, the marine life, the, biodiversity that our coastline is so unique and has to offer. And if we keep adding parking spaces in this town, our coastline is going to just keep getting thrashed during peak season. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And the direct impact to the environment and the wildlife is blatantly present. As is already with the amount of spaces that are already here. So adding additional spaces that don't already exist is not the answer. Like Aaron said, and everybody else has said, charging for spaces that exist and managing that correctly will definitely offset the cost, or help offset the cost of managing and, marine safety and trash removal, trash pickup. Because if you keep adding people, and you're going to bury yourself, because then what, next year or in 10 years, we're going to add 100 more spaces, because the population surrounding us is growing exponentially. Our town, our coastline is not growing. It's getting smaller. The sand is actually shrinking, and the beaches are getting smaller, and the coastline's not growing. We got 3 ways in and out. Capacity is an issue with this town, and I just can't stress enough to stay away from adding extra spaces. That's not, you could add 1,000 spaces, and it's going to cause more problem and more cost to law enforcement, marine safety, trash removal, harm to the environment. And I don't think you guys want to be the reason sea life is dying because of adding spaces, trying to get some revenue. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
I just want to ditto Aaron about the analysis that of parking at Aliso. I look at it. My house is a fishbowl with windows. I look at both lots. I can see how many cars are there, when it's full, when it's not full, when it's half full. You don't need any more parking there. I see it every single day of my life. So the analysis that you mentioned, I really would like to see those numbers. It's critical. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay. My takeaways are, and I don't know if anybody wants to chime in, or they can just defer to me. It doesn't matter. You can chime in too. We've got to focus on enforcement, be better about it, be more creative about how we do that. I think Ann's point, resonated. Is Coastal going to look at parking differently? I think I need to have that conversation with them, see if they may, a lot of the ideas in this room may fly better than I suspect they would fly. I'm always open to my mind changing. I'm really concerned about the points that people made about emergency access and access to fire hydrants. That falls into the enforcement web of things. I did hear an openness to, I'm not talking about meters, but I always use the term pay stations when I can, because we don't put in any more meters, but a pay station model certainly for Coast Highway, and then maybe for a couple of blocks of the residential streets. So you may see that proposed. I didn't see people hating on that. So again, with the caveat that we'd have to square away what residents have to do. More Ts, so more delineated parking spaces, knowing that that also can reduce spaces because where you fit in 5 cars before and they squished, your Ts are going to tell you they're only 4. That may be okay. There is, yeah, no, we don't need to argue about that. I'm just saying that's something I'm intrigued by. And then I also, people's points about leaving Aliso Beach parking lot alone, that makes a lot of sense. So you've given us something to rethink. I don't want to build a bunch of spaces that nobody's going to use. So, yeah. Anybody else had any other takeaway comments? Matt's got one, maybe Tom?
I think the woman brought up about the stairs at West.
Oh, yeah.
But I did get that email yesterday.
Okay.
We're actively.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. Matt?
I just wanted to say a lot of great ideas were brought up, and one thing that would be, I guess, kind of helpful in my mind is, and you touched on it, Dave, is the idea of installing meters in those first few, or I'm sorry, I gotta use the right word, pay stations, in the first few residential blocks. And I'm just curious, it looked like you were trying to take a straw poll earlier.
Yeah, my straw poll
If maybe
kind of
we
failed,
could
but-
just, get a temperature check of the room.
If we did that, again, kind of like we do in the rest of town, say the first 2 blocks at least, if we had those as pay station, pay parking, how many people would support that? Clarity's okay. What's that? Wait a second. What's your clarity question? Okay. We can't do anything on private streets. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Tell people this is not okay.
So whoever owns that street can put those up. Oh, okay. Well, you're able to tow. So,
I have a private street.
Okay.
We have a deal with the city. We have signs on our street, like 7 of them, with code and Tomo's number and the police department's number, and we just call Tomo, and Tomo comes, we don't have to pay him. Car goes, and then you have to get it out. That's how it works on private street.
so swing by Aliso Circle, and take some pictures. Well, if we teed the streets, so put in markings, you could only park in a marked spot legally and you'd pay to park there. Well, you're talking about another technology that we're trying to use more of that would allow people to, kind of like you do if you go into an Irvine Company parking lot, right? You know how many spaces are on the 4th floor and the 3rd floor and the 5th floor. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. Right. But let's try the straw poll again.
Maybe, I'm sorry, just to help clarify, obviously the devil's in the details, just at a high level, the concept of introducing paid parking for us to flush out those details, which are obviously very critical. Is that something that the group as a whole has interest in the city looking at?
Simple, because we're not.
This is non-binding. We're just, is this a fool's errand?
Did
No
we
way. You
explore
guys
it any further, I think,
Yeah.
in that saying. Willing to walk down the path a little bit. Okay,
It's fine to an extent, right?
All right.
South Lagoon is very different.
Yeah.
It could be 300 to 500.
Right.
From the.
Right.
Every block is a different.
have to be custom made, yeah. Pat, I want to let Pat, or you could raise your hand. Absolutely hate the idea. Is that you? Who absolutely hates it? Okay, Pat. So which is Justin, right? Justin's point that there should be variation. It shouldn't be as absolute as I'm saying it is.
But the oceanfront homes that have been in perpetual
construction for the last 15 years. Every morning at 6:30, the crews arrive to park there. So we have, I mean, and God bless them, they're building oceanfront stuff, but where, I have a service guy, I put out a cone, where is he gonna park? He nudges into my driveway. The challenge is teaching.
Yeah, fair concern.
That great. Oh my God, have you seen those people? My car in 30 years, I've had probably 6 accidents because people don't know how to park on an incline. So that's what, and I'm not where I live, I'm not moving. But
Great points. Yeah, great points. All right, yeah, go ahead. Sure, I'm going to let everybody go.
We get some kind of a pass, like for residents, passes or whatever it is.
Yeah, we'd have to get, yeah, and the devil's in that detail. We'd have to figure that out. Yeah. Right. Or mothers-in-law. Yeah, anybody who's coming to visit. Take it then. You mean parking restrictions back there? I know other people have raised that too. That's something for us to consider. All right, I'm gonna let everybody go unless you had anything else you want to say. We're here. If anybody really wants to stay for a council meeting, we're having a special council meeting at 6:30. No? Anyone? No? Thanks. Thanks for your comments. Okay.